toys and SuperSorrell thrive. With action figures from every age, join us now, turn the page. From the big screen to the small. It's Geek Week, the podcast of the year. Join the fun with laughter and cheer. Toys collecting and tales from the past. Tune in now, the good times will last.
We dive into movies that make us dream, with memories like a childhood theme. TV shows that caught our eyes, let's collect the moments and rise.
Like, share, subscribe, don't miss out. It's Geek Week, the podcast of the year. Join the fun with laughter and cheer. Toys collecting and tales from the past. Tune in now, the good times will last.
Like, share, subscribe, don't miss out.
Hello. It's all about that intro. Let's be honest. It's all about that intro. Welcome back. It's the Geek Week, episode 177, with me, Jacob Toys, and of course, the wonderful one and only SuperSorrell. Hello, people in the chat already. We can see you already. If you are watching live, as always, join in with the comments. Join in with the conversation as we're going along. It's always good fun to involve you guys with what we're talking about. If you are watching on catch up though, like we know a lot of you do, Mr. Sorrell, what is the magic word that they need to use?
Hashtag catch up crew.
Hashtag catch up crew. There we go. Very quickly, I'm going to address these comments very, very quickly. Shelley said before we went live, I wonder if JT is still in an empty room. I'm not. I'm not in an empty room. I'm in a very half done room at the moment. So I haven't got lights and I've just kind of got stuff out on display. It's not as it should be. I just wanted it out of boxes and everything like that. Jack said, evening gents, the new setup is coming together nicely, Jacob. Thank you very much. Do appreciate it. Ooh, JT's got some stuff behind him. Sorry. But I'm not the only one with a new display, am I, Sorrell? Because you've moved your display around as well.
Yeah, I've got mine all ready for the new year. You're representing what I'm currently looking at on my channel. So yeah, mine's all done and dusted now as well. I'm quite happy with it.
Nice. I do have to point out one thing though. I've got there's my Diamond Select Turtles there, but I've got this big old Iron Man here, and he's kind of like, I love it. It's really cool, but it's so massive. It takes up so much space that I'm kind of like, I kind of want to get rid of it, but I don't know. Let's talk pickups. What did you get this week? Get anything exciting?
What did I pick up this week? You go first. Hang on.
All right. Okay. So first of all, where am I at? I did get a new hot toy. Oh, I've got to slide back a little bit for this one. It's not out the box yet, so I do apologise. And I'm not opening it live on air because it's a hot toy at the end of the day. But I've got my little Spider-Man selection down there somewhere. I've got all the versions of Spider-Man. I've got Andrew Garfield. I've got Tony and all the rest of it. And I finally got Tom Holland. So I decided out of the different Spider-Man suits, the Iron Spider was the one that I kind of wanted to represent the Tom Holland era, if you like. So I'm going to put him there alongside my my other Spider-Men. Pretty cool. But the big thing that turned up this week, was this bad boy. I see a lot of people sharing it on their social medias and stuff, but the Goblin helmet. And you know what?
Cool.
It's surprisingly cool. It really is surprisingly cool. Like with a lot of these helmets, they're very kind of they're a display thing, you know. Look at that. It's, if I can get it on. There you go. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
I might just do the rest of the show like this.
I'll get you, Spider-Man.
Spider-Man. Yeah. So, but it's cool. It is cool. I like my helmets. I've got quite a lot of helmets, and when I saw this one, I was kind of like, you know what, Green Goblin from that first Spider-Man film, such a kind of iconic thing. And I really hated the design when that film first came out. I really hated the design. I think like a lot of people, it wasn't kind of comic book accurate, was it? And everyone was kind of like, oh, whatever. But it's really cool to have that. And I have got the pumpkin bomb somewhere as well. I don't know where that's gone, but it's up there. So the top it's in one of the boxes up here. But yes, so they were my big pickups. Very Spider-Man related this week. What about yourself?
So since we last went live, I got really excited because you know me and I love my blind bags and mystery bogs, and we went to Smith's in Sheffield to go get these because they were the only store that had them in like the UK that were in stock. And I rang up ahead of time, like like it says on the website you've got them, but you're the only store apparently in the UK that has. They were like, yeah, they're here. I'm like, yes. So I like flew over. They don't shut till 9 o'clock at night these days. So like Lynn finished work and we flew over, and we got the brand new Poppy's Playtime chapter 3 Smiling Critters with Catnap. So we basically got all of them, and then while we were there, we found the brand new Five Nights at Freddy's ones as well. So like these weren't even out yet. These weren't even on the website. These were just on the shelf. I was like, get it.
Nice.
So I spent a small fortune, about 200 quid on blind bags, mate. I'm not gonna lie.
Wow.
But I basically bought the whole box. I've now got the box. It's there on the shelf. I've got the box on display now.
Nice.
But do you know what I've been getting into? Really into Mega Gross Minis. Have you seen these?
Yeah, I've had a couple of those. Me and my boy picked up a couple with like the Starbucks with like puke coming out of it and stuff.
Yeah. So my favourite one so far. Let me just grab it. I love these. My favourite one is a Dr. Popper or a Dr. Pimple Popper. It's a Coke can that's like oozing
with fingers on it as well.
The fingers popping it, and they're maggots. You're eating maggots, Jacob.
Oh, I like that. That's
McDonald's with maggots coming out of it. Chicken nuggets, they've called it.
They are very cool.
I love them so much. So I'm gonna be getting a load more of them.
I tell you, talk about like minis and blind bags and stuff. What are the mini universe things? You know, like the little potions that you can make?
The MGA miniverse.
Yeah, my daughter picked up one of those, and it was like a fish tank one, and it was it was what, £8, I think it was. But for what you got in the kit was really good. Like you got like a little pot of resin. You got like the stones, and yeah, it was really cool. And she like made this little aquarium with a turtle in it, and I was like, oh, they would work quite well with 1/6 scale figures.
Yep, that's why we get them. That's why I get them. Because like when I've started doing my figure photography and things, I started populating the background using all the little Coke cans and all the little things that I get out of these little surprise kits. Like we did the Halloween one, and it worked surprisingly well with the 7-inch scale figures because they were quite large, like dessert looking things for Halloween.
Yeah.
But it looked right in a 7-inch figure's hands. It looked like a giant trifle kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they do work.
I'll tell you what, we obviously this week's show is all about Kenner toys, but we have got to talk about the big, and I say big is no exaggeration, but the big reveal this week was at Legion Con, wasn't it? Yeah.
So before we go to just what I want to say as well, I won't be able to share any picture or anything. So I can't for some reason. This morning my computer finally went pop. As you notice in the background, it's quiet as hell in this room right now. You can't hear the fans of the doomed PC going. It finally the Boeing 747 computer finally died. So I've now got like a little PC that my dad gave me, but it's like it's so crap. It's like it hasn't been turned on since 2021, so it's updating like crazy right now.
Wow.
But yeah, I can't log into StreamYard with it. Let's put it that way. It doesn't even like StreamYard. It just dies every time I try and go on it. So I'm waiting on getting a new laptop for Christmas. So bear with me. But there was a bunch of reveals. But like I say, I won't be able to share the photos this evening, which is annoying me. But we did have a big reveal at Legion's Con of literally a giant dragon.
Yeah, I mean, quite literally. It's a giant dragon. I mean, this thing is huge. For anyone that hasn't seen, I mean, do go and check. I mean, the photos are all over Instagram and YouTube and stuff. So if you haven't seen it already, just Google Legion Con. But basically, yeah, Mythic Legions were doing their big reveals and all that kind of stuff, and the front and center of their reveals was this huge in scale dragon, and its wingspan is massive. Like it's just huge. Like
Yeah.
I don't even know how you would display something like that. That's where my head went straight away. Was
Oh, the
that
wingspan on it alone is ridiculous.
yeah. But that's the thing, is that it's so big in all directions that even if you were going to put it on a like a shelf, it would go too far sideways. Yeah. John said, "Where's Jacob's ladder?" I see what you did there. I see what you did there, John, and I appreciate it. The step ladder is gone. I only needed it to put my shelves back up, and it's gone. But thanks for noticing it. It wasn't here, or it could just be hiding behind this massive pile. But yeah, but it's huge. It is huge, and I think it kind of begs the question that are we kind of entering this era now where toy companies are just going big or going home kind of thing, because everything seems to be getting bigger and bigger, and I don't know who they're marketing at, if that makes sense, because with things like the Ghost from HasLab, with things like the Dragon from Mythic Legions, like they are huge display pieces. Who are they aimed at?
Yeah, the thing is with Mythic Legions, it was the next logical step for them because they've done
Yeah.
the horseback characters, then they've done centaurs, they've done smaller dragons before, like dragon people, like dragon men and things like that. They've done that. The next step for them was this level, and I think there's another level after this year. I think trolls and I think giants are going to be next. If they can make a dragon, you're telling me they ain't going to make a giant like a like Marvel did with the Sentinel, like the Galactus. Imagine that scale of like a big ogre dragon, like a big ogre or a big troll with a big club.
I think that's coming without a doubt. That's definitely the next logical step.
Do you know what it is though, and what draws me to Mythic Legions more than to other companies? These are IPs that are their own. They take their own spin on things. They use free. If they make something like the Scrooge figures or the Headless Horseman, it's their interpretation of it. It's not a direct pull. It's from the source material and it's got their own spin on it. But most of their figures are their own individual IP. So they make the story, and then, but because like me, I don't really read into those stories too much. I don't really read into the lore of Mythic Legions. I just look at a figure and go, "That looks friggin' awesome." But then in my own little head, like my Headless Horseman's got his own little in my head he's got his own little backstory. You know what I mean? So I mean, like, I love the fact that these figures they're coming to you fresh with no story idea in mind. It's like being a kid again and thinking up, the different adventures that character could have.
Yeah, but they're not just going to stop at one dragon, though, are they? Let's be honest.
Oh God, no!
Like, there's
if
going
it
to be
sells, they're going to make more.
And that's where my head was kind of going with it, was that kind of like, you know what, if it sells enough that it's seen as a good business choice, are they going to make more? And then if that way,
where I'm thinking, if this funds and this sells next year, they will make an accessory pack for that dragon with a figure and a saddle, and they'll turn it into a dragon rider. And if that sells, I think the next step would be to release a dragon and a figure together in a different color scheme and make a dragon rider.
Yeah.
Because then imagine that if they take that mold of that dragon, paint it different colors for different characters to have, and even create a bone dragon, a hell dragon, you know what I mean? And then you could have like undead vampire characters on top of like a black dragon with purple eyes.
Yeah, see, my thinking was that the next one will be like a more evil looking dragon, because this could very much be a good guy dragon, couldn't it? Like you could see like the barbarians and the wizards and stuff like seated on it. Whereas to have something to go with the more evil side of Mythic Legions, I think that's the next logical step.
I'm not sure if you ever played Skyrim, but I was so happy when I looked at Robbo Don't Know's channel when he posted this. And the first comment that was on there was, "What in Oblivion is that?" And that just made my day, because that is the first thing that they say in Skyrim when the dragon turns over. "What in Oblivion is that?" It's like that person's got my humor level.
Yep. Shelley said she went, the dragon looks really cool. I'd have nowhere to display it though, and I dread to think what it will cost. And that's a really good point because they haven't actually announced how it will
Not
be
yet.
funded, how much it will be cost. I mean, there was no, as far as I was aware from what I'd seen, there was nothing hinting towards this being a crowdfunding thing. This was
It is.
just
It's going to be a Kickstarter.
Oh, it is a Kickstarter. Okay, that's fair enough. So it's going to be a Kickstarter. So that makes
Yeah.
a lot more logical sense. I was skimming through all the different articles and I didn't pick up on that. So it will be a Kickstarter. So okay, but the actual price hasn't been announced yet, has it?
No price. They're going to release more information as the weekend goes on. The bear in mind in where it is on the, I think it's on the West Coast, isn't it? So it's going to be, I think it'll still be ongoing right now. Mostly America's behind us in time. So there's still maybe more details coming out as we're talking. But they said it's going to be, the pre-orders will open in January 2025. And I believe there's going to be pre-orders on the Four Horsemen website, and there's people that can access that, potentially a Kickstarter as well.
Yeah.
But they have said they have to meet a certain amount. There needs to be a minimum amount needed to move the production forward. So it's not their usual thing, because they're normally quite good at, they already have the figures produced, then they do the pre-order and it goes out within a week. That's normally how it works. This is going to be one of their usual kind of, you're going to pre-order it. It's going to take about a year probably or so to produce and then send to you. It'll take a while.
I'm just literally looking at it now, and if you Google Mythic Legions, literally the second hit is Mythic Legions Dragon.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying to find the actual size.
There's no official details out yet. All the things that came out were from Robbo. Robbo Don't Know was there, and so was Rocco the Great. Them two were actually on the at the con, and they've been posting all sorts of pictures and stuff. But the thing is huge.
There is one picture here that I've just found that has size on it.
Oh, someone measured it, and they've got measurements now for it.
Oh, it's been deleted.
I think they'll want to. They're saying that basically it measures well over 3 feet long from the tip of its nose to the fully extended tail, and 22 inches from the bottom of his feet to the top of his wings.
Yeah, so this one that I'm looking at says 30. No, it's all blurry because it's been deleted. But 30-something inches from top to bottom.
Yeah,
54 inches from tail to nose, and then 16 inches from the tip of the fire to the chin, which is insane. Insane. Oh no, 31 inches. 31 inches long with the tail wrapped around, but the tail can be fully extended, and 22 inches from toe to wingtip.
Cool.
Wow,
one thing that got me was they also announced today they're calling them the Ninian Infantry. I think that's how you pronounce that, the Ninian Infantry. And they are like snake people, and they're sort of green reptilian skinned with like golden armor.
Cool.
They look badass. They've got you can open the mouth of the snake, and the fangs on the character is there, and everything just like a python head kind of thing, like a python. Imagine putting that on the back of that dragon. That'd be amazing. It's
the natural progression to have somebody riding this dragon. Let's be honest. Like you hit the nail on the head. It is a natural progression to have a saddle and have somebody riding it. That's it. We've called it now in the Geek Week. There is a saddle coming. Jack said basically at that size they're selling real baby dragons, pretty much. Shelley said it's the size of my 9-month lab pup, if not bigger. Which is pretty true. I mean, I suppose we're fortunate enough in the collecting kind of way to have our own space, but even with our own space for collections, you're still limited to space. There's still a limit. And I thought that when I saw the Ghost on show at MCM last year. I thought it's stunning, but for me it was too big to have anywhere. It would literally be the main part of your collection. But yeah, man, that's massive. Dave Nipples has said Cat's Lair. Obviously, we got to talk Cat's Lair as well. The Cat's Lair is huge. But Jack said a really interesting point here in the comments. He said we're kind of getting to the point where the gap between HasLab style stuff and the cheaper figures is huge. We're slowly losing the middle ground, and every line expands and gets gradually more expensive. And I think you're pretty right. I think a while back there was a very clear big brands and third parties, or knockoffs as they were more commonly known. So it was like your big brands and then your cheap lines. Whereas now there are so many quality third party production companies that they are producing figures and then growing their repertoire, their catalog, their tooling, all that kind of stuff to then become contenders. Like Mythic Legions, for example, is a fully fledged, very, very well produced toy line now. That literally sprung up a few years back. So you are right, you're not wrong. There is, I just think, excuse me, I just think there's a bigger scope of options now. But it does concern me about how big things are getting and whether that's the direction we're going or not.
I don't think it's for it now. There's always going to be there's always going to be big toy items. That's always been a thing. It's never going to go away.
No,
but I don't think all toy companies are going to go that way. It's just I think it was the natural progression for Mythic Legions. They've been pushing the envelope, making bigger and bigger mythic characters, and it makes sense that because that dragon needs to be that size to be in scale. I would have hated for them to create a fully articulated dragon that wasn't true to scale, because that's not what they do. They are very good at the details, the intricate looks, the paint works. So if they're going to make me a dragon, I want it to be a goddamn big dragon to scale with all the toys.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
And I think they've mastered it. I think they have, if they can, because bear in mind there's going to be no license fees. So the thing is with HasLab, you've got to bear in mind that the prices are large because they're also paying Marvel or Star Wars a fee to have that license. So in this instance, 4 Horsemen, yes, it's going to be expensive, but there's going to be no license issues, no license fees, no big thingies. But what I am worried about is the import costs on this bad boy.
That's
getting that to the UK is going to be a thing and a half, because normally it's about what $40 shipping with 4 Horsemen, something like that, direct from them.
Yep.
If you want the good economical route. But a big dragon like that, you must be talking 50, 60 quid, and then easily about. I wouldn't even want to think what it's going to be import if you get hit with a customs charge.
I mean, that thing's big enough that it should be able to fly itself over here. Let's be honest. It just should be able to just like strap a sticker on it and let it fly. I just throw it out the window and it will just like soar. But yeah, no, it is big. It is big. But no, I think you've hit the nail on the head there, that they haven't cheaped out. Like it had to be that big, it had to be that big for them to do it. And I think if they had gone lower, I think if they had made it smaller, then people would have complained, because as you say, it needed to be in scale, didn't it?
So one thing they've done, which was very cool, the first thing they announced was the new wave of action figures that are coming. The one that I sent you, where you've got there's like a hyena wolf style character. There was like a demon snake, and you can either have him with like the snaky kind of bottom, there's like a fired snake kind of bottom part to him, or you can put legs on him. I love the fact that 4 Horsemen do that thing where you pull them apart, build them how you want. And then they had like a lizard with wings. And then the final release of that particular line was the Dragon Cultist. A very cool looking, it's like a mage with like a dragon mask and golden armor. And she has like a flying dragon behind, like a smaller serpent dragon behind her. And then obviously they dropped the big dragons coming. So I think that's going to be, I think the reason we're waiting, I think there's going to be a link between these characters, because they like to build their own lore and story. I think the idea is there's a war going on and she's bringing up the dragon, and that's why we're waiting for the official release kind of thing. But there were some cool new figures announced.
I know that obviously it's all their own IP, like you mentioned a little while ago.
Yeah.
But I do wonder whether, because of the sheer detail and the scale that these guys are able to achieve, I do wonder whether properties like Game of Thrones, Lord of Rings, Rings of Power, all that kind of stuff, are kind of looking at them and going, these guys could really nail our IP. because
Eventually,
for
allow
them,
them.
I reckon so, because obviously for them to approach the toy company, the license fees will probably be better because they're obviously not going to. It's not when a toy company's approaching in the IP, then obviously they're like, okay, well it can be this much because they're charging money to get it. But if it's the other way round, they might be able to get away with a lower license fee in order to produce these high end quality figures.
Here's how I'd like them to tackle it. If that was the case and this was going to happen, here's how I'd love for them to tackle it. Imagine they were approached by Warner Brothers and were asked to produce an action figure for Maximus Aurelius from Gladiator, right?
Mm-hmm.
They build the Gladiator figure, and then true to Mythic Legion style, the sheer amount of accessories and armor pieces. Yes, we're going to get the Russell Crowe helmet and the silver body plate, and we're going to get a Russell Crowe head. But they'll also introduce, and they'll also give you a regular head, different armor pieces, and different masks and different helmets in the pack, like they do now with all the accessories and things. So you could basically you could buy that as Russell Crowe's Gladiator, or you could completely change it and make it your own regular Mythic Legions figure. That way, it's an IP. You're getting a figure from a movie that's detailed and awesome, but for the true Mythic Legions fans that want to be purists and don't want the IP stuff, they've still got a kick-ass Gladiator-looking figure to put on their displays.
That would work really well.
Imagine like Aragorn, but then you have the Aragorn head, but you're able to change the Aragorn head and maybe a couple of other accessories to change it from Aragorn to another Strider or another kind of Ranger character. That's what I mean. Like, so the purists can maybe not have the Hollywood head if they didn't want it.
But the other good thing about that as well, especially towards like Gladiator, for example, is if it came with 3 heads, for example, and a bunch of accessories, you could buy 3 of them and have 3 separate figures on your shelf, or you could have the Russell Crowe Gladiator and then other gladiators alongside him. Like, that'd be good.
And as well, do you know what? I have another thought. Imagine if, because they're so good at what they do, imagine if just the Warner Brothers approached them and just said, we need a Lord of the Rings, like Lord of the Rings action figures, but don't base it on the movies. Do your own thing. Do the Mythic Legions thing, but with our IP. So they do their own interpretation of Gollum, Frodo, and Aragorn, Legolas. They do their versions.
That would be superb.
Can you imagine? Like, so it's not gonna look like Orlando Bloom. It's going to be their version of Legolas, an elf from the Mythic Legions universe of Legolas.
Yeah,
that's the way to do it.
That'd be really cool.
Let Mythic Legions do their thing.
Originally, I was thinking like Dungeons and Dragons would be a good one. But
yeah. It already is D&D, really, isn't it?
Well, that's kind of what I thought. I just thought actually that would probably be a wasted time because then the Mythic Legions would all be tied up in just creating characters that we already know and all the rest of it. Whereas that's kind of what they're doing now. They're giving us these figures and these kind of fantasy avatars and stuff. But I think to approach something like Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones or something like that, and for them to kind of build on that would be a really good sideline. I think it would be, just because I don't think another toy company out there does mythic characters the way that Mythic Legions does.
No. Did you know what I love about Mythics though? The one thing that I love about them more than anything is the fact that I'm able to, like, I bought because I buy a lot of mine secondhand because of the fact that they're all interchangeable, or most of them are. So like I bought the Vampire Wave because I wanted all 4 of the vampire characters. And all the armors, heads, arms, legs, everything is interchangeable. So I basically was like, oh, I like the armor on that one, I like the legs on that one, I like the head on that one, and I basically built my own little like vampire lord out of bits of the other ones. You know what I mean? So I love that. I love the fact that they're buildable and they're all interchangeable. So like my headless horseman, the guy that's actually on the horse isn't the body that came with it. I've built that using other parts.
Oh right, nice.
And then so I wanted the body from because I wanted the the suit that he was wearing. I wanted that for like the vampire, so I ended up taking the body part off of that one and putting another one on the horseman because you couldn't really see it because of the horse anyway.
No, as somebody that's customized a lot as well and like kit bashing and all that kind of stuff in the past, it's been a real frustration of mine. And I know that other, I know other customizers have kind of come across the same things where you have to like snap torsos, like crack torsos, cut things off, and you're basically wasting thighs and chest pieces and stuff like that because you're like, well, I need this piece to complete this look, and it's a real frustrating for me. It was always a really frustrating part of customizing. So it was like, okay, I've got this vision in my head, but I know I'm gonna have to sacrifice X, Y, and Z. And at one point, when you were still having to, you know, figures were still going for 20, like retail price was like a bare minimum. Like even on the secondary market, it was like retail or nothing. Whereas now you can pick up a lot of figures for really cheap. So I guess a little bit of that kind of kit bashing isn't as bad. But for a toy line to kind of nail that, whether it was intentionally or unintentionally, is brilliant. It really is. But yeah, just having a look. Dave said, "I think it would be cool if Animal Warriors of the Kingdom got to take a stab at Thundercats." I just want anyone to take a real good stab at Thundercats. It never feels like we really get Thundercats. Like it
I'm
always feels
honestly
like,
really, really surprised that Mattel haven't done it and scaled them with He-Man. I don't know why this has not been a thing yet. Because
no,
of all the crossovers they've done, why is
yeah.
Thundercats not a thing?
But they could easily. Are you talking about the new like Revelation size figures?
Yeah. So like the newer He-Man stuff that they've been producing
Yeah,
that's doing really well. Imagine releasing the Thundercats in that style to go with them. I don't want them to be the same size. Obviously, you know, Lion-O needs to be a decent size. It needs to be a big, chunky lion character. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, imagine Thundercats in that line to go with them. That'd be amazing.
yeah, yeah.
He-Man and Lion-O, clashing like in the comics.
This one for me, like He-Man was a figure for me as a kid that it was like a staple figure of my childhood. And I know some people really hate these because it's not the He-Man I remember. But for me, this is the ultimate kind of like progression because it's now an articulated sort of 7-inch version of that figure that I had as a kid.
It's a
And
maturer version of what you had as a child.
yeah, it's
That's how I
like
look at it. It's the matured version of it.
I've grown up a little bit. He's grown up a little bit. You know, we both got past. We don't talk about it, but yeah, I'm really happy. So I've got a whole box of these He-Man figures that I've kind of been picking up over time, and yeah, I'm ready to put them on a display on one of my new shelves. Probably that one. So there we go. Dave said, I really like the Masterverse stuff. I do as well, mate. I'm totally with you on that one. I think there's some really good figures out there. So look, did I miss any more comments about this dragon? No. Paddy said, R.I.P. Tony Todd. Did you hear about this?
Yeah. Tony Todd passed away, sadly.
Yeah. Just got to obviously talk about it. Candyman, hands down. That's who I think of straight away. One of the films in my, I won't say childhood, but my younger days that proper messed me up.
Yeah.
And then he just became that. It was kind of, I always saw him as very menacing in that film without being a Freddy Krueger or without being a Pinhead. Do you know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff. Like Candyman to me was very, yeah, I was scared to say it 3 times in front of a mirror. I was adamant that it was gonna happen. So I never fully said it 3 times in front of a mirror. But yeah, no, it is sad. It is sad. But the sad realization of us getting older is that all the people that we grew up with are getting older as well. So yeah, there we go. But yeah, it's and obviously he did a lot of other things apart from Candyman, but Candyman, I think for a lot of people,
Yeah, that's his main kind of. That was the thing that I think was his biggest
was
role that you'll remember. Obviously, he also featured in The Crow. He featured in The Rock. He featured in so many weird little
wasn't
movies.
he in Final Destination as well?
Yeah, it was in a few Final Stations, if I remember. He was in quite a few of them. He
Wasn't
did
he
a lot of.
something to do with it?
I can't
Like,
remember now. It's been a long time since I've seen those films.
I'm sure it was, but I mean,
And
his thing goes back. I mean, obviously, all sorts of really iconic films as well. I'm sure he's in Platoon as well.
Yeah, and he was
I'm sure
also in. He did a lot of voiceover work. So he was the voice of Darkseid for the Marvel DC universe. He did voiceovers for video games. He did a lot of stuff. He was in the Scream TV series, the film Candy Corn that came out recently. That was quite successful. He's in a lot of things. He was in the Orville, if you remember that TV series. It was like a Star Trek Mickey take.
Yeah.
Then he did a lot of independent horror movies. My favorite being Hellfest. He was in that. He's done quite a lot in his time, and a lot of TV movies and things like that.
You know, one of my favorite facts that I remember hearing though, and I had to just Google it to see how much it was. But when he was doing the Candyman, obviously there's a part where he's covered in bees, isn't there? And
Yeah.
there was a rumor that he got paid for every sting that he got. If that makes sense. I got a bonus for every sting that he got, and I just had to Google it because it said here in 2019 he said that he got stung 23 times, and apparently he got paid $1,000 bonus every time. How cool is that? Can you imagine writing that into your contract and kind of going, yeah, I don't mind doing the bee thing, but every time they sting me, $1,000? Like that? And I'll just be going like this. There's no one.
Well, it's like when you learn, you know, I forgot the gentleman's name, but you know, in Hocus Pocus,
Mm-hmm.
the guy that plays Billy.
Yeah.
He's a monster actor. He's been in thousands of movies. He plays a lot of monster roles. He actually had moths in his mouth, and when he cuts his mouth open, that was real stitching on the mask that he was wearing. So he had to genuinely cut that. And then when he opened his mouth, went Plah! He had smoke inside his mouth holding it, and he had 2 moths live in his mouth the whole time.
Wow.
So when he coughed and they came out, they were real moths. Wow. I think that is mental. I thought that was like early CGI, but apparently not. Apparently that was all practical. And he's just a nutcase.
Practical effect. That's where it's at. Right, let's talk about Kenner. Kenner, because obviously we like to theme our shows every week. We kind of have a main theme that we kind of want to kind of rattle on about for a little part of the show. And this week we're talking about Kenner. So Kenner was obviously the toy tycoon of the when did they start? It was something stupid like 60s, 70s.
Yeah.
But basically, they went all the way up until when Hasbro bought them in the mid 2000s, I think it was. Should have done my research, really. But they're responsible for a whole bunch of obvious and not so obvious figures and toy lines that a lot of us grew up with. So we said we were going to do a top 10 Kenner figure countdown. Now, I haven't put mine in order. Have you?
No.
Okay.
I just chose a bunch of random Kenner figures that were from my childhood that I remember and that I loved. Basically.
Cool. So there we go. So we're going to talk Kenner figures. So Kenner figures from our childhood. Right, here we go. Black Sky said, did you guys collect any Predator and Alien figures? Well, you know what?
Yeah.
Aliens is actually on my list.
Mine is too.
There we go. So yeah, the Alien figures for me, the Kenner Alien figures. I remember there being, I think it was like a tiger alien or something like that.
Oh yeah.
An orangey metallic one that you could push down and its kind of legs went out and then it kind of had a spring thing to it. But yeah, it was from that era when the films weren't aimed at the same age demographic that the toys were.
Yeah.
And they weren't very representation. They weren't a good representation of the film, were they? They had a whole bunch of aliens, and there was like an arachnid alien figure as well. Do you remember that one?
Yeah. So I've got the list here. So these came out in 1992, and there was a whole boatload of them. It's basically NECA. When they got the license, they just went through and recreated all these. They didn't even. They just made bigger, like more articulated versions of these. Yeah. So you've got the gorilla alien, the scorpion alien, the bull alien, the flying alien queen, the rhino alien. Then they did a panther alien, snake alien, and a mantis alien. As a kid, I had the rhino alien. He's the one that's all hunched up with the horn that went boom, like butted forward. Yeah. I had that one as a kid.
I think my one must have been did you say panther?
Yeah, there's a panther one. It was like yellow. It was like an orangey yellow.
That's the one. Yeah, I've just Googled it.
He's got like a big tail and stuff.
Oh, NECA have done it, haven't they?
Yep, they've done them all. You can get the whole wave. They've even done the human version. Like all the human characters are there, full articulated as well.
Oh, I need an alien collection on my shelf, really, don't I? Let's be honest.
There's an Alien versus Predator crossover line, and you can get Dutch and Sigourney Weaver's character together in a 2-pack. Basically, and they're like cartoon versions of them. Like, imagine if an 80s cartoon came out of that Alien vs Predator. That is what they're based on, and they look amazing.
Are they out now?
Yeah, just Google NECA Alien vs Predator. That line is amazing. I love it so much. You'll be able to get them on second-hand market pretty easily. A lot of people buy the pack just for the Sigourney Weaver looking character, and it doesn't look like them because obviously they couldn't do the licensing.
No.
So it's like imagine if they made an 80s cartoon based on Alien versus Predator and loosely based it around Dutch and stuff like that.
I'm just having a look. They are called Dutchins. Hang on a
And
sec.
the Predators in that collection are amazing.
Yeah, they are very good. I did have a whole bunch of these. At one point. Alien and Predator was the main thing that I kind of did for when I collected NECA. Dutch and Lynn is the.
There you go. That's it.
The
There.
Yeah. Oh, they're quite cool. They are quite cool. They're very computer game-esque.
Yeah. And then there's like a you can get an alien, a predator that's all blue, and he's got like the little alien, the baby alien that goes inside him. He's basically got that. He's crushing it with his hand.
But no, Black Sky said, "I love the variety and creativity they had for those, and they're still really cool." Totally agree. I think for me, it was just the. Okay, so 92. I'm a lot younger. I hadn't really seen the films properly, but I knew what
I knew of them.
The alien was and all that kind of stuff. So for them to be figures, and it's kind of tapping into that childhood thing of kind of, okay, we're going to take this property and turn it into a dog and turn it into a cat, and that sells. You know what I mean? Like it's, like you said, I had the Panther alien, you had the Rhino alien. Never the two should meet, but they but they were. But there was so much versatility with those figures as a kid. Like there was that Panther alien went into pretty much everything. Like I was, I had superheroes fighting it. I had other figures on my list fighting it. Like it was a very cool toy line. It was a very cool toy line.
So the next kind of thing I've got on my list let's go with that was the Aliens versus Predator line that was originally came out by Kenner, and that had the yellow. You always found this one at car boot sales. It was the yellow Predator with the brown armor pieces.
Yeah,
and you never had the armor pieces because no one ever sold them with everything. You just had the base figure, and it came with the black xenomorph that looked like the one from the films. It was a jet black xenomorph warrior alien. Yeah. And I had those two, and I loved that pack. But again, I bought them at like a car boot or something, so like they were just the base figures. But to me, they were amazing. And like you say, Batman fought them. I think the Power Rangers had to fight them at one point. So they were well loved in my toy line.
You know what? I just segueing a little bit here. So I went to a Comic-Con today.
All right,
a local one. I'm not going to name and shame. But it was. It was a car boot.
It was a convention.
It was a thing. But no, you know what? I took my youngest, who's 5, my youngest boy, who's 5, and he was so excited about going to a Comic-Con. And we went in, and there was all your typical stuff. There was a couple of people in cosplay. There were your Ghostbusters. There was, all that kind of stuff. And credit where credit's due, 90% of the stalls were attractive. There were buckets of figures similar to the kind of thing that you do when you go to conventions, like loads of action figures on sale, all very affordable prices, no kind of sets. They're all just random bits and stuff. And then there were some Lego figures and stuff like that. There was only one table that sold Funkos, which I was really pleased about. And my son loved it. And just going from table to table and just kind of going through and looking at all these figures and everything like that. And I just thought, this is fantastic, because this is what you don't get with the car boots anymore. But then the one thing that let it down for me was the price that these people had on figures.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? That wobbly Power Ranger that, its legs falling off is not worth £12. Like
that's what they sell at, sadly, these days.
No, this one wasn't. This was a junky kind of, I think it might have even been a cereal toy. And it was kind of like, I don't want to have to sift through what you're trying to kind of overprice to find things that are well priced. But my son picked some stuff up, and we had fun with it and stuff. So it was a good day. It was a good day. I won't lie. It was good. We were only there for like an hour and a half, which I think it probably cost me more to get in than I spent on stalls and stuff. But no, it was good. It was good. But yes, but that was going back to the kind of the Kenner figures, I picked up a lot of mine at things like boot sales, and it
Yeah.
kind of opened my kind of eyes to these other lines, because you would have the adverts on television and stuff like that, but there wasn't groups, there wasn't internet.
No.
So it was kind of like if you had a figure, or your aunt bought you an action figure from Alien, you had the pictures on the back of the box, and that was your reference point. And it was
Yep.
kind of like, okay, I need to look for these other figures, and that's why I only had limited figures, because I only saw limited versions of these figures in the stores. But then the other ones I picked up at car boot sales and stuff, because I was like,
Mhm.
wow, look, that's an alien that will go with this alien, or a predator that will go with this predator. And that's what I think is a real shame, because I think if, like today, for example, if things weren't priced up as high as they were, my son probably would have picked up more, and it would have created links to other toy lines for him.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
yeah, I don't know. We picked up some stuff.
I think you got to remember as well, when we were kids, like I say, it was prior to the internet, pre-eBay. So people didn't have a reference point. If you weren't into toys and these were just from your attic that your kid had back in the 80s, you're selling them now in the mid-90s. You were charging 50p to a pound, maybe £1 something a toy. Probably not even that, because I mean, I picked up a lot of stuff for 20, 30, 40p.
Yeah,
Because I remember my memory is my dad would give me £3, three little pound coins, and say, whatever you can get with that, son, you can take home. And that was my then job to then barter and try and negotiate. And that was it was making me speak to people, you know what I mean? Like speak to adults and negotiate and stuff.
I just
Which
imagine it's like this kind of Dungeons and Dragons-esque kind of like like fate, like, you know, little baby SuperSorrell skipping down. I have 3 English coins. What do I get?
But that's the thing. The thing is, what I remember though is what I love about it. I remember picking up like the Kenner Ghostbusters,
Yep,
for
got it.
example, and then going to another stall and finding one of the other ones. So like, I remember I picked up Egon and I was well happy, but then I was like, but they must have made the other ones, because obviously it's just a
Yep,
loose figure in my hand. I don't know what else they made. I'm a kid. But
yep,
then you go to another stall and you find a Venkman, and then you find it, you're like, and then you go to another stall and you find it, you collected it over the course of a few weeks, going to different stalls, and you'd eventually get the whole set. And that's what I used to love about it. I just had a box of figures back. I remember it was a red big plastic box, just full of random action figures, and I
yep,
eventually created little teams out of them. You know what I mean? I eventually got everything I needed.
yep. No, that's what we do now. We've got action figure boxes, and it's like just things get thrown in there, and then you create games out of what's in there. But
Yep.
yeah, I you know, and I suppose there's that element of kind of wanting that aspect for young, like for younger generations,
Yeah,
because
they'll never have that
if
again.
no, because again, like if things were cheaper at this convention today, if my son had picked up 3 different figures from different lines,
Yeah.
the chances are he'd then want to go to another Comic Con to try to find others, or to try to link teams and stuff like we did. It was kind of, I'd love going to the boot sale with my grandma, because I knew that there were certain figures that I had that the chances are I might find another one or something that can loosely link to it. So, but yeah, there we go.
But not everything. Just to take you for a little stroll down memory lane. Not everything was from boot sales when I was a kid. Kenner was still an active company when we were growing up, and they created a lot of the new toys that I owned as well. And let's see if you owned any of these as well, because you're a similar age to me. There isn't much in our age gap. So let's see if you owned any of these. So I had gargoyles. Do you remember Disney's gargoyles?
Yep.
I had a bunch of those. They were by Kenner.
Yep.
Mummies Alive. Remember that?
Oh yeah.
So the film, I think the Mummy movie came out, and then obviously everything was then hot for mummy, like
Yeah.
Egyptian style figures and things like that. And Mummies Alive kind of came out, because you remember like Mighty Max created a mummy set and things like that.
Yep. That's the one
So
I
it
had.
became like a thing, and these were like pharaohs that had come back to life to be like superheroes almost.
Yep. Yep.
A ridiculous franchise. It had a cartoon. Ridiculous
Yep.
franchise.
That's
I would
what I
love to
remember,
collect
the
them now.
cartoon. That's what I'm trying to look at the moment, to see who it was that made it.
It was Kenner.
No, I mean, sorry.
Oh, the TV series.
Who made the TV? Yeah.
I can't remember now. But yeah, there was a really cool TV. So obviously, me being a big fan of monsters and things like that sticks out in my mind. Because they had some really cool ones in that line. But they also made the Dragonheart action figures. Do you remember Dragonheart?
Yeah.
So
Dragon.
I was lucky enough
Oh,
that one Christmas my mum bought me the dragon, and I love the fact that I wish I owned this day because obviously it's Sean Connery's voice coming out of a dragon. I wish I still
yeah.
owned this thing, and it would
Yeah.
shout things. It would say like, "You have my heart, Ivan." And it said all these really weird phrases from the film.
Yeah. The dragon. That was a cool dragon as well.
Such a good movie as well. A very underrated movie. Sean Connery, Dennis Quaid, Pete Postlethwaite was in that one.
Oh, there was quite a few dragons in that line as well, wasn't there?
Yeah, and Dina Meyer was the lady in that one as well. Good old Dina Meyer. I'm trying to think who played the kid that got the heart from him, because Dennis Quaid was the hero. There he
Mate,
is. It was David Thewlis. Oh my god, he was young in that. Jesus Christ.
you can pick up that Dragonheart Electric Draco
Don't.
for
I'll be on
about
eBay tonight.
70 quid.
But mate, that annoying little kid from that movie grew up to be David Thewlis, the guy from Harry Potter.
No way.
The professor that's the werewolf.
There we go.
He was the annoying little ginger kid that was like, I don't want your heart, dragon, I want to die. He was such an annoying little brat of a character in that film.
Are these on your list, or are these just random?
Yeah, these are all on the list. I'm just sort of like, I kind of listed franchises more than individual figures. I've got a few individual figures that I'm going to point out, but I wanted to like raise, because a lot of people always like, I didn't want this list to mainly be DC and then jump to Star Wars, Jurassic Park, and that be about it. I wanted to point out how many franchises Ken actually owned at the time, because it's insane.
No. That is not my list at all. I
Cool.
will mention Batman though, just because a couple of people are talking about Batman. So obviously, Kenner's Batman was the main line of. They did everything, like all of the movies. They did all of it.
Yep.
John said there, Kenner's Batman the animated series line was amazing, and I will
Absolutely
agree
amazing.
with that. I think that was the best one because. Let's be honest, back in the day, the likeness of characters wasn't really there, was it? Like, they might have the same color shirt that the character had in the movie, but the likeness wasn't really there.
No.
Whereas the animated series line, they really did capture the likeness because obviously it's cartoony. So yeah, but then the joke with the Kenner Batmans is obviously they went down the rabbit hole of just giving us every type of Batman possible. Like scuba outfit Batman and like mission to Mars Batman and all this kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Like day off Batman.
Day off Batman.
stuck at the post office Batman. Like all this kind of stuff. But yeah, the Kenner Batman line without.
I'm laughing because I've just found a list of like and it literally is Samurai Batman, Viking Batman, Dark Warrior Batman, Crusader Batman, Buccaneer Batman, Ultimate Armor Batman. They literally are all called that, mate.
No, it was literally, single dad Batman, unemployed Batman. Like it's just all these different.
So the line that I loved the most, that I remember going to Toys R Us and picking up, was the Legends of Batman line. So I had like Batman as a buccaneer with a shield and a sword, and like there was a Joker in like a proper like French like hat and everything like that, like Napoleon hat.
Yeah.
And there was a Two-Face that had, for some reason, a arm that had a sword on it, and you could spin the bat thing on the back, and his sword would spin around.
Yeah.
But the idea was you'd get the two figures, roll the thing on the back, and they'd be like going like doing the sword fighting.
Yeah. The one I really remember, and I can't remember what type of Batman it was, but I'd lost all the accessories, and he had like a silver kind of chainmail look to his body. So it was just like a standard Batman shape, but his whole body looked like it was made out of like bumpy metal.
Okay.
And I can't remember what it went with. So if anyone in the chat remembers which one that was, please let me know. But yes, Batman is definitely a line. But going down obscure lines, one that I've talked about before in previous streams, and I'm going to bring it out now, was Kenner's Centurions.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So Centurions was a very cool toy line. For anyone that hasn't seen us talk about it previously, it was essentially, I don't think there was a huge amount of toys. I only think there was like half a dozen toys produced, but the three main characters I can't remember their names, but one of them was definitely called Jake, and that's one of the reasons why I think I liked it. But they were essentially kind of 9-inch figures, maybe, that had holes all over their armor, and then each one came with machine parts that you would clip onto the body, and one of them was kind of turned into an aeroplane, one of them turned into like a tank, and one of them turned into like a submarine or something like that. But what was really interesting about it, and I only learned this when I was older, was that it was the same marketing techniques that they used for things like He-Man and stuff, where they created the cartoon to essentially sell the toys. It
Yeah.
wasn't the other way around. And I remember watching the cartoon as a kid and being obsessed with it. And I think it might have been Ace. I think it was Jake and Ace and then something like Keith. I can't remember the third one's name. But it was
Look
like,
out for Keith.
but it was, I remember having two of them, and they were just your typical kind of 80s toy, bright colors, handlebar moustache, lots of accessories, and just basically really unpractical. Like, let's be honest, the human body would not have handled the things that these were supposed to do, but they were just very cool. And it was essentially that kind of my first kind of introduction to like the mech suit aspect of kind of play and
Yeah.
kind of fantasy and stuff. But yeah, they were very cool. But that was Kenner as well, and I didn't realize until we were doing our research for tonight's stream that they were produced by Kenner, because like Dave said here, I always forget which companies made stuff. And back in the day, you didn't really know, did you?
No, you didn't know.
But yeah, it's so yeah, I was really surprised to figure that out, that it was Kenner. But yeah, they did Centurions. Another one on my list, John's just given it away. I'm going to throw his comment up here, but it was Mask as well, the Mobile Armored Strike Command. 10 points, John, if without Google you can tell us what Venom, who was the bad guys, what the acronym for Venom was. Because the good guys were called Mask and they were Mobile Armored Strike Command, and the bad guys were called Venom. But do you know what the acronym was? But yeah, they were essentially cars that transformed into stuff. They were like a good mashup between G.I. Joe and Transformers, as John just said there. But I just remember having the main car, and it was just like your kind of mid-range playset, and the wheels kind of flipped round, and the little figures were, they're only tiny, but they all came with a mask and all the rest of it. But yeah, it was a good line. Did you have any other Mask figures?
Not my thing. I didn't have any kind of like GI Joes. I didn't really have any Mask. I didn't have any Centurion. They weren't my thing. I wasn't into mechs. It took me a long time to get into, because I don't know why, but in my head, like that was all linked to like Transformers and that whole mech kind of thing, and I was never into that. I was more into my, like you say, like the Alien, Predator. I had a lot more of the sci-fi, so I had a lot of the Terminator figures. The Terminators were my favorites out of this line. I even I love the. I've mentioned it before on the thing, but you remember you had like the putty and you put it in the machine and you put the endoskeleton version of the Terminator in the machine, and you push a button, it'd fill the mold, and it would basically come out like Arnold Schwarzenegger, and you could fly, like have bits peeling off of him as he got battle worn and things like that, till eventually it was just a skeletal remain kind of thing.
It was really good.
Yeah, I had all that.
Terminator, though, because Terminator's on my list as well. John has come back and said, sorry, without Googling, I can't remember what Venom stood for. I'll tell you now, it was Vicious Evil Network of Mayhem. And I didn't remember that because I just think it was such a. You imagine them all sitting around going, right, what are we going to call it? Let's call ourselves Venom, because that sounds menacing. Yeah. It could be an acronym for Vicious Evil Network. Oh, yeah, of Mayhem. Yeah, I just thought it was really funny. Vicious Evil Network of Mayhem is what Venom stood for. But yes, going back to Terminator. So they had the T2 license, didn't they? Terminator 2 license. And again, what we're saying about likeness, like the likeness was not there. Like it did not look like, I think the most likeness, I think, was probably the T1000 from memory. But like the Arnold figure didn't really look like Arnold. It just looked like a butch, half robot, half man thing. But I had the
So,
motorbike as well. The
oh,
motorbike was one of my. It fired missiles out the front, which is something obviously it didn't do in the film. But they're making toys, so they're like, right, how do we make a Harley Fat Boy more appealing as a toy? Let's just put some missiles in the front, them plastic ones that are
yeah.
loaded on the springs. But I had that, and it was one of my favorite toys for a long time. Like when I'd go around my friends to play, I would take my Terminator bike because everyone would ride on the Terminator bike. And then my friend had the little dirt bike, the John Connor bike.
Yeah.
And it was just very cool. But when you actually look at it now, it was a bit naff. But
So yeah, I had the I had the one that everyone had, which was the Terminator all in black with the metal arm that you could pop off, and then you could either have the regular arm on to hold the gun, or you popped that arm off and you put the big metal arm with the claw.
yeah,
I had that one, and that is the one that again NECA have recreated all these years later for us, and I still have that in my collection. I love it so much. And I had the is it the T whatever it was called, the other one, and he basically pushed a button on his torso, and the whole thing's like obliterated into pieces.
Yeah.
He like blew up.
Yes, he did. I had that one as well. Wasn't he like half? He was literally half and half, wasn't he? He was like half silver,
Yeah,
and he had the spiked
and the
arm.
cop suit on the one side, and then
And
the
then
silver on the other.
yeah, and you'd have to put it back together. I just had a quick Google because the actual bike was called a heavy metal cycle. It wasn't
Nice.
like a Harley, obviously. It was they wouldn't be able to use that, but it was actually a heavy metal cycle, and it didn't fire. It did. I've had to Google it. It didn't fire missiles out the side. It fired it out the front, and the tank came forward, which is deploying the battle shield, and then it fired a missile out. It's just mad. But I think the figure that they showed on the bike was the best likeness to the Terminator figure. And then there was the little John Connor dirt bike as well. Like I said, my friend had the John Connor figure and the John Connor dirt bike, and the dirt bike's actually a decent dirt bike figure, like a dirt bike toy.
So Dave says in the chat, which I just have to say, Dave said in the chat, he just found a picture of Kenner's Jurassic Park Dennis Nedry. Now, we have to talk about this because, yes, I own those figures too, and I know you did, and you've started recollecting them, haven't you?
I've started recollecting. I don't know where I put them, but I've been moving recently. I don't know if I told you, but yeah, they're in a box somewhere. But they are.
Well,
but yeah.
I didn't know that was meant to be Dennis Nedry because I had them all secondhand from my cousin who were handed down to me. I didn't have them brand new; they were all given to me by my cousin. And he gave me he had the green and red Jeep, or the green and yellow Jeep, whatever you call it, the one from the film.
Yep.
He had that Jeep, and I got a bunch of loose figures with the little dinosaurs, basically. And the Dennis Nedry figure, I never knew that was meant to be Dennis Nedry because obviously it looks nothing like. So why would I assume as a kid that's the same guy? I thought that was Ian Malcolm. I played with that as Ian Malcolm for so many years, and it wasn't until you guys. It was you and why do I want to call him Kyle? Why am I calling him Kyle? It's not Kyle.
Empire Toys.
No, our good friend Ryan speaks geek. Jesus Christ, Ryan! I was calling him Kyle. In my head, I'm going Kyle, but that is not. In my head, I'm going. It's not Kyle. That is not Kyle.
Yeah.
Sorry, Ryan. It was when you and Ryan were talking about it, and you said that's Dennis Nedry. And I remember at the time thinking, that wasn't like I never knew that was Dennis Nedry. To this day, I only realized that recently.
No, it's insane though, isn't it? Because when you look at it, like you can imagine the I can't remember the actor's name who plays Dennis Nedry, but he's no Ian Malcolm. Let's be honest. Can you imagine when they showed him the toy and they were like, right, this is the toy that we put together for you? He'd be like, yeah, okay, I'll take that.
Absolutely fine. Yeah, I'll take that. That's all right. Ego boost.
Yep, thank you very much. That is me. Here is my action figure. But yeah, I was fortunate enough that I did get these ones new. So I had these new, and they came with like cool little trading cards. They came with like a mini dino each one. But the big selling point for me on this line was the dinosaurs. I'd never had a dinosaur figure as good as these.
No.
Like they had that kind of realistic kind of feel to them, like the rubbery kind of texture. They were all I don't want to say pinless, but they had that kind of thing, didn't they?
Yeah.
So that the arms and legs bent with them. And then there was like there was a range of them. I can't remember what they called it, whether it's like battle damage or dino damage or something. And you had
Yeah.
like a section of it that came out. So when they were fighting, like you could rip out a part of the T. There was like the baby T-Rex, and it had like a bit on its rib cage. And then there was
Yeah.
a Stegosaurus, a Triceratops, and then of course you had the big electronic red T-Rex as well, which was like the big dinosaur. And it was just such a good toy, like such a good toy. And
So that Jurassic Park, that dinosaur you're referring to, was a juvenile Tyrannosaurus Rex Dino Damage Jurassic Park 1993 Kenner action figure
I think I said dino
with
damage. I'm going to
with
take
with with deadly. I like how they put deadly in speech marks with deadly slashing jaws.
that.
Choking hazard.
Yeah. But what's cool about them is that they had this kind of ball thing in the head, so you could kind of squeeze it and it would open and close your mouth.
Yeah.
And you know what? To this day, I know the license is obviously switched over and stuff, but the Jurassic Park figures and the dinosaurs have still got that element of quality to them. I don't think they've got the quality that we had back in the day in that first kind of couple of releases, because they actually went on to continue the Jurassic Park license. I think pretty much until Hasbro took over, Kenner.
Yeah.
I think they pretty much were producing stuff for the other films and stuff, because I had later ones and there was a raptor and a Dilophosaurus that screamed.
Yeah, I had those.
Yeah. I think as well, if memory strikes me correctly, the Dilophosaurus from the first series of figures you could fill up with water and then squirt water. So it did like the spitting action. And then obviously there was the Velociraptor in there, like the brown Velociraptor. But yeah, for me, it wasn't the action figures. The action figures weren't the selling point of that line, because there was only 5 or 6 in that original release. But they did loads of vehicles. They did like the different Jeeps and all this. You had like the red and grey Jeep. You had the green and yellowy orange one or whatever it is. There was something else as well.
Do you know something really mental? Because I didn't know this. Because obviously I'm not a massive collector of Jurassic. But Mattel didn't take over the Jurassic license, because I've always assumed Mattel had it for a long time. They've had it a very long time, but they haven't. Mattel took over the Jurassic license, starting with Jurassic World back in Hasbro. They took it from Hasbro in late 2017, meaning that they could start producing toys in July 2017 for Jurassic World. Jurassic World was their toy license. It took Mattel a long time to get hold of the Jurassic Park license, which is why we're only just starting to get those park toys. And that's why all of them had the Jurassic World logo on them for a long time, because they only had the Jurassic World license. Hasbro apparently were holding on to that park one, like holding on to that bad boy for a long time.
Yeah, I read something similar. Yeah, but obviously they've re-released that big red Rex, haven't they, recently?
Yeah. This is from Jurassic Outpost, so I mean, I trust Jurassic Outpost. He's my go-to guy for Jurassic Park stuff.
My youngest son, both my boys actually were massively into like the Jurassic franchise growing up, and so we have a huge box of dinosaurs that just collected over the years, going back to like original kind of Kenner ones from when I was younger, through to like the modern ones for like Camp Cretaceous. And it's weird how like they all just mix in and play together. They all just work together. But no, the Jurassic Park line for me was a big one as a kid, and I think it was the first time as a kid where I felt like I had a collection, if that makes sense. Like I had a real collection of something, because my parents had obviously bought me the Command Center, I think, for Christmas or whatever, and then had told everyone else, like, oh, if you want to get Jacob something, get him like a Jurassic Park dinosaur or whatever. So I seemed to, like, between a birthday and Christmas, I seemed to get a lot of them at once, and then all of a sudden I had this huge, and I was obsessed with the movie, like, absolutely obsessed with the movie. So yeah, that was a big one for me, and I think that would tip the top end of my list as well, the Jurassic Park license.
Yeah, I'm thinking that the Jurassic like dinosaurs, along with WW action figures and Pokemon, I think they're going to be my toys that I hunt down next year, secondhand though. because I think there's so many good older stuff for those lines than there is newer stuff. I think the newer stuff is just overly priced, and it's the same stuff we've had for years, just reproduced. Like, how many times can you sell a Velociraptor and charge full price for it? So I mean, there's this, those Velociraptors look as good as they did 5 years ago. So I'm tempted to go back and go through all the toy fairs and stuff like that, see how many of these characters I can pick up secondhand and have those as my secondhand collection almost.
I've got the main lineup now of the Jurassic Park figures. I just need a Dennis Nedry or an Ian Malcolm if I'm talking to you, but I just need a Dennis Nedry figure. And I just haven't. I stopped my hunt. But I would like to collect a couple of the dinosaurs as well, just to kind of really fill that gap, because I really like the Amber collection that was released by myself.
Yeah,
but they obviously didn't last very long, which is a shame, because those figures just really hold their value now.
So back to Kenner. So for me, and this is going to upset a lot of people when they find this out, the fact that my channel started with Star Wars, but I've always been honest about this. I didn't have Star Wars growing up. It wasn't a thing I owned growing up, because those were the toys in the 70s. And the thing was, those were still holding their price. Even though people didn't have eBay and stuff like that, people knew Star Wars was worth money. So they held on to those. They weren't circulated highly in the secondhand markets that I remember growing up. But I was always a big fan of the films. But for me, the top of my actual Kenner list might surprise you, actually.
Care Bears.
No. I do love me some Care Bears.
Is it the cupcakes or whatever they are? What are the strawberry shortcakes?
No. The Batman and Robin movie line. Remember those?
Shout. Yeah, good shout.
So they came in 2-packs. And the Christmas because they came out, the film came out in the summer, and then the toys came out in time for the video release at Christmas. Because I remember one year my mum buying me the VHS tape of Batman and Robin, and also buying me the lines of toys. And I even had I'm sure it was a Nerf gun or something that you attached to your arm, and it fired the little things off. And I basically had a Batman Christmas. And they all came in 2-packs. You got like the silver George Clooney Batman with Bane. You got Robin and Poison Ivy. You got there was a Batgirl in there, but she had the big headpiece on, so she looked like Batman. She had like the motorcycle helmet, I think they called it. So she didn't look anything like the film version at all. But for me, that Poison Ivy figure was like the best Poison Ivy figure I owned, if that makes sense, other than the animated one. That one I think still holds up to this day. It looks nothing like Uma Thurman, but it was one of my go-to figures in my Batman box, that she was always the villain that come out.
Yeah, well,
because I love the look of them.
I think that's a really good shout. So a couple of honourable mentions then before I get to the top of my list. So obviously older ones, we're looking at Indiana Jones, we're looking at Star Wars. We can't talk Kenner without saying that they obviously dominated. Kenner and Star Wars was obviously a fluke, because they took on the license of this movie not knowing whether it was going to do well or not, and obviously it did. And they, that was a real kind of someone got a promotion that day for ticking that box. A couple of the other lines, the Hook figures. Surprised we didn't mention Hook yet.
Were they by Kenner?
They were Kenner.
Wow.
They were cool, and the Robin Hood Prince of Thieves figures as well. They were by Kenner. The thing that always cracks me up about the Robin Hood figures is obviously they were just repurposed DC figures, because we had the Super Powers line back in the day. And then the Robin Hoods were things like, the Green Arrow was repurposed as Robin Hood. Hawkman was repurposed as Little John, all that kind of stuff. But they had some really good play sets. And it was a really good example of a film that wasn't necessarily aimed at kids, but wasn't not for kids, that had a corresponding toy line, that had a toy line that you could actually recreate those scenes and play with it and stuff.
So all the play sets that came out for Robin Hood were all Ewok play sets. It was the Ewok village was basically repainted and re-put out, because Star Wars collectors to this day will tell you, because I did it, if you buy an Ewok village on eBay, it will set you back about £100 for a decent looking set. However, if you can find a Prince of Thieves set, which is the same set, it's the exact same set, just a slightly different color variant, that is about £50 cheaper. So I picked up, when I did my display, mine was a Prince of Thieves one.
Oh yeah,
And I had that in my background for years, but nobody knew it was a Prince of Peace run.
no, no one would question it. No one would question it. And I think it's the reason I put that on there as an honourable mention. I'm just getting my list back up. The reason I put that on there as my honourable mention is that nowadays, especially with Hasbro figures and like the Marvel figures and the Star Wars figures, people really complain about reuse and oh, that's not a new sculpt. Oh, it's reusing this from this figure and this figures and all that kind of stuff. But back in the day, they would take whole toy lines and just repaint them and pop on a new head, and we would eat it up. We'd go, "This is amazing! I've got Robin Hood toys," and really they're all just old molds from Superpowers. So yeah, there we go. We've said Batman, we've said Terminator 2, we've said Star Wars, Mask obviously on there. Indiana Jones was a great line, but it was an older one. Dave has said, I've got everything I do it for you in my head now. And that will stay in your head for the next 52 weeks or whatever it was that it stayed at number one for. It seemed to be at number one for like 3 years, that song. Maybe I'll see if I can load that up to close the show with that. Ding, ding. However, my number one, closely followed by Jurassic Park, so only in the number one spot by a very short space, is the real Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
Kenner Real Ghostbusters for me was the love and hate toy line I had as a kid. Absolutely loved it. Huge Ghostbusters fan. Absolutely loved it as a kid, having all those ghosts and the little backpacks where you could twiddle the things and it made the proton beam spin. The reason why I was really disappointed is because it was obviously based on the cartoon and not on the movies.
That's it, the real Ghostbusters, weren't they?
They were the real Ghostbusters as opposed to the Ghostbusters in the movies. We didn't actually get figures for the movies, and I think that's one of the reasons why the plasma line was so popular when it came out. The other things as well, and I mentioned this in previous conversations and when I was on the stream with Emily and that, but the fact that the Stay Puffed was so small in comparison to the giant firehouse, the fact that the firehouse didn't actually do anything other than have a pole and you could drip slime through it, but yeah, it was this massive play set. I just think there was such a missed opportunity. They should have had more things going on with it. The Ecto one was fantastic as a kid, but it was squashed, and if I remember rightly, you could only put 2 or 3 figures in there. You couldn't get them all in there, which I only found out when I was a little bit older and I acquired the whole set, and then I couldn't fit them all in there. But I loved the real Ghostbusters TV show. I loved the Ghostbusters movie, and so therefore the Ghostbusters toy line for me was a big one. And it was also all the additional toys that we had as well. You had like a backpack, you had like the proton pack. There was also a proton blaster that had like foam discs. Do you remember those? Like foam, and you'd pump it and it would fire them out. Yeah, the real Ghostbusters line by Kenner for me was huge.
Just to give some more honourable mentions before we wrap up here. I mean, we didn't even touch on half of what Kenner actually owned. They also did Beetlejuice. They did a line called Bone Age, Battle Brawlers. I had some of those. They did the Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure figures. They also did Captain Planet. If you remember that, Captain Planet. They did Chuck Norris's Karate Commandos.
Yep, that popular one.
Yeah, that popular one. As we mentioned in the show, obviously Dragonheart, the movie, that was a big thing in the 90s. That had a toy line. It was one of them things where if it was like a semi-decent movie and they wanted some toys for kids, they would reach out to Kenner. They were like the masters of it because they did Flintstones, the movie toys as well. Back in the day. Obviously Gargoyles, For Real Friends were a big thing for them. G.I. Joe we didn't even touch on. That weren't a massive thing over here. It was Action Force, wasn't it, in the UK?
Yeah.
They had the Disney license for a lot of years, so a lot of Disney toys were made by Kenner. Indiana Jones. There's so many on this list; it just goes on. The Littlest Pet Shop originally came from them. Mask we touched on. They did a lot of Mickey Mouse action figures for the Disney Store back in the day. Then there was all the like Predator, Alien. They did a couple of other DC lines as well. We haven't even touched on the real Ghostbusters was one of their biggest lines. They did Sabrina the Teenage Witch action figures Nobody remembers them, but they were amazing. I think I had 2 or 3 of them. They were dolls, basically. They were dolls. They did all the Snoopy action figures back in the day. Spirograph came from them. Virtual Troopers, remember them? Troopers free virtual reality.
VR
That was them.
Troopers.
VR Troopers, yeah.
Yep.
Technozoids, Universal Studios Monsters came out from them originally as well. There was just so many licenses. Waterworld, do you remember Waterworld?
Yep. Another Kevin Costner. $6 Million Man.
John $6 Million Man came from them. The Babysitters Club had a doll line.
Wow. And they did
there was so many.
A lot of like toys aimed at girls as well. Like I said, I'm sure Care Bears was Kenner at some point. I'm sure there was another one as well, like a doll that my sister had. But yeah, there was a lot of girl orientated toys as well.
Yeah, I am not afraid to say that back in the day, I had a Sabrina the Teenage Witch doll because the TV show was huge growing up, and they made a bedtime Sabrina, and she floated off the bed. It was like an illusion thing. I still don't know how it works this day. It was amazing, but basically you laid her on the bed and she floated above it like in the TV series.
Nice,
very clever.
Dave said VR Troopers. I forgot about those. VR Troopers jumped out shortly after the big Power Ranger popularity.
Yeah, it sort of appeared at the same time as like Knight Rider, and then there's always that other one that I have to Google that I can never remember, where the kid goes into the computer and fought like kaijus, like big dragons and shit.
What's it called? I think
we do this every time we mention this.
We need to do a show dedicated to Power Ranger spin-offs or Power Ranger knockoffs.
But these were all massive already in Japan, and basically it was what do you call him? Saban that basically was like, well, if it works for Power Rangers, we'll just do the same thing again. They bought all the Sentai style stuff for VR Troopers, got a bunch of American kids in and filmed a weird version of it in America and put a cohesive storyline to the clips. They did the same with Beetleborgs. Yeah, Beetleborgs and Masked Rider. There were so many of them.
What a great business choice of just going, let's take this, spin it, turn it into something new.
Because if you remember, I know we mentioned it a lot of times before. If you remember, there was them episodes later in Power Rangers where like the Beetleborgs turned up as like villains for the Power Rangers to fight, and the Masked Rider and stuff. They all appeared later on in Power Rangers as reused suits, basically, to be bad guys.
Yeah. But there's that Kenner dominated. Let's be honest. There was so much they did that it's hard to kind of really put things in an order. Hence why we didn't put it in an order. But I think having spoken about what we've spoken about, I think Jurassic Park Ghostbusters closely followed by Jurassic Park for me would be the top.
Yeah. The top for me would definitely probably be Terminator and Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. I think that for me as well is one of the reasons why the HasLab Ecto 1 is such an appealing thing now. Now that I've seen it in hand, it really hit home with the kind of the nostalgic element of the Kenner stuff. And yeah, I'm hoping it funds. I really am hoping it funds. It looks like it will. It's only a couple of thousand away, and they've still got like the best part of a month.
So I'm about to give you. I'm about to send you down a rabbit hole, my friend. I'm about to probably make you slightly bankrupt now. Just before we end the show, I want to see your reaction. Just have a little Google of the words NECA Kenner tribute figures.
Okay.
And just watch your childhood unfold before your eyes with mature, articulated action figures. You're about to start. You're about to start buying toys. I'm telling you.
Okay. Right. Ready?
Yep.
Oh, mate.
Because if you've got the same image as I've just got, I think the one you owned as a Predator is in the top left corner of your screen right now. Yep. The Aliens Kenner tribute Panther alien.
Available on Amazon now.
They've got the Terminators, Predator alien. They've got all of them. They basically anything that Kenner made, NECA, if they had the license to it, recreated the toys, but for mature adults. So you've got those original Terminators with the power arm and everything. You've got the modernized version of the Cop T1000, and they've done all of them. You can get all the Predators, aliens, all the human characters from Predators. You can get all of them. It's all there. It's amazing. They even did RoboCop. They've got some RoboCop in the same style, so that it looks like it came out from Kenner, even though it wasn't Kenner. It looks like Kenner, and it's amazing.
Okay. So the alien's about 35 quid.
I've got most of them in storage. I literally, when I bought them all secondhand on the groups. This is why I love the groups, because when I started collecting figures, these were already out as NECA tribute toys. I joined the game late, and I were picking these up in the groups for like 20, 30 quid here and there. And people were sending me left, right, and center. Like I managed to get, like, there's a Predator called Ahab, and he's like the big, like, burly Predator and stuff like that. There's I got the Gorilla Predator, and I got Gorilla Alien. I picked up so many from the groups.
Oh, mate. They got Space Marines. They've got
Twilight and a
Ripley.
half in it.
They've got the Python alien, which is basically just a backbone with an alien head. It's that Terminator. It's that power arm Terminator.
It's so nostalgic in it. That is just childhood fodder right there.
Oh, right. Okay, there we go. Yep, there we go. There's a rabbit hole. Thank you very much. Oh, they got the Rhino.
The Rhino, yeah. They've done all of them. They've made every single figure. If you go onto NECA's website, there is a list of all the Kenner tribute ones they've made, and it's a massive list.
Wow. Yeah, they've got the T1000. Oh, mate. Right. Okay. Yeah, that's a rabbit hole. Thanks very much.
No worries, man.
Thank you very much. That is a rabbit hole.
Brilliant. Just
Brilliant.
don't ever Google the gaming line, because that you will be bankrupt again. Because do you remember all the games we played on the NES?
What, NECA again?
Yep, NECA's NES line. So they did, all the games that we played as kids.
Yeah.
So they basically made action figures to look like the game version. So you can get Freddy and Jason in like the purple and red. You can get the blue and purple Batman. They all look like they've just stepped out of the NES video game. All modern articulated figures. They look amazing.
Oh, you can get a Terminator as well.
Yeah, there you go. And they just look like they've just stepped out of the video games. And the boxes that they come in looks like the video game box, because you can get the NECA Contra. Do you remember Contra with the red and blue? They look like Rambo. Yeah. It looks like Arnie, and it basically looked like Arnie and Stallone, didn't it? They basically made figures of those, and they come in the proper box that looks like the video game box. They're a good line to have if you're an inbox collector and just have them all on the shelf lined up. They look like video games, and then you open them up in the toys.
Cool. They are so cool.
I've got video reviews of all of them lines, the Kenner tribute and the NES ones. I own literally all of them, so I've reviewed all of them over the years.
They are very cool.
Mm-hmm.
They are very, very cool. Oh, man. Send me down a rabbit hole.
This is why my toy line became exclusively 7-inch now, because I've just literally collect NECA for these reasons.
I haven't got NECA, so man, never mind. Right, we have decided already, haven't we, what we're going to be doing over the next couple of weeks?
Yeah.
We just haven't obviously uploaded them yet. They will be coming out very soon. We've
kind of got every single show planned out till the end of the year, haven't we? We've kind of planned out this year. So then we started next year with a fresh, clean plate and with some new ideas and stuff.
Yeah. So next week we are going to do what we want from Hasbro in 2025.
Yeah.
That is going to be our kind of main topic of conversation. And then the week after that, we're going to do a Black Friday special. So we're going to basically just talk about all the Black Friday offers that are out there and just kind of point you in the right directions. So we'll kind of drip feed you those two at the moment, but keep an eye on our social medias, because we're going to upload basically the streams for the rest of the year, just so that they're all there and they're all available for you to kind of work out which ones you're going to tune into and stuff like that. So cool. I think that's about it. I think we can wrap.
Yeah.
I think we can wrap. It's been a good one. I've quite enjoyed this little nostalgic trip down memory lane. I think we're both going to be fighting over Jurassic Park figures now. So I'm going to run quickly and get my bids in on eBay before you get your hands on it. No, I'm only joking. That you can pick them up relatively cheap, to be fair.
No, see, I'm not bothered about the no. So what I meant earlier was I'm not going to bother with the. I'm not bothered for the old Kenner stuff. I mean, like over the last 10 years or so, they've done so many dinosaur figures and so many like WWE figures, Pokemon figures, and rather than pay the full price now that are in Smiths, I'd rather go back and see what I can pick up secondhand at a toy fair. Is what I'm trying to say.
Got ya. Yes, yeah. That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
Because they're more or less the same molds reused over and over.
Oh, I know. But that's it. Thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in. We've done our best to kind of get to the comments as we've kind of gone through them. Do let us know with the hashtag #CatchUpCrew if you are watching on repeat. Hopefully next week I'll have a little bit more of my room kind of sorted out. And I might make a decision on what I'm going to do with this huge monstrosity. It's really frustrating me. It's taking up a lot of space. My head's covering it up. It's whatever. Anyway, thank you very much. Yes, catch us next week. What we want from Hasbro in 2025. Sorrel, anything you want to say?
Yeah, you do this to me every week. Yeah, I'm all right. I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you very much, guys. Listen, we appreciate you. Make sure you follow, subscribe, all those things. Check out the link of the description for all the links for other social medias and stuff. Until next week, keep it geek.
Game over, man. It's game over.
Like, share, subscribe, don't miss out.